Mike O'Mara, Radio Entertainment. Hix Nix Stix Pix, a podcast about Rob's movies with your hosts, Rob Spewak and Josh Sroka. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let the show begin.
Thank you, AI voice guy, who sounds great because we gave him 6 weeks off.
Yeah, this show's still happening. We didn't just shut it down.
It was so funny when I actually clicked and I saw that we got a new follower like last week. I said, we haven't done anything in 6 weeks. I do want to apologize for that. Yeah, I suppose.
The new follower had 6 weeks to catch up.
She knows everything about Return to Oz now. I want to apologize for our hiatus. I was going through some stuff. My father passed away. So many of you people have checked in and given me lovely sentiments and your sympathy and your empathy, and I genuinely appreciate it. I was in no frame of mind to do a goofy movie show, but I think we are back, and Josh assures me we still know how to do it.
I think so. We can watch movies and discuss it.
Very good. That is in our skill set, right?
Slight problem is I watched 16 Candles 6 weeks ago.
That's
so a slight problem there. Where normally it's the day of, I didn't get a chance to rewatch it.
Well, Sam Baker is now 17. That's the problem. It's been so long. But don't worry, I will give you a very detailed recap in just a moment.
Sure you will. And I'm just happy that my favorite part, I think, is our beginning credits where they just introduce the guy as the geek. Where Ted does not get a name. Just the geek.
and sometimes he's Farmer Ted, sometimes he's the geek, sometimes he's Ted. I like to think of him as Farmer Ted, although geek, we'll get to it. I think geek was sort of a groundbreaking insult at the time of this movie. I don't think geek was as common as it was now.
Well, it's the only one that sticks around and isn't racist from this movie or inappropriate.
Well, let's not talk about canceling John Hughes just yet. What should people do as far as following and liking the podcast? I know you're better at that than me.
Well, Hix Nix Stix Pix.com gets them all that stuff, but they should be following us on YouTube and
absolutely,
on their social media, and of course your favorite podcast app.
Yes, very good. Appreciate it.
You should tell a friend.
Yeah, tell two friends. Tell two friends why they should never watch a movie called 16 Candles. No, I can't say that. But let us begin with the recap. And you know what? Our second John Hughes movie. Yeah. And
yes.
And do we have any other
Planes, Trains was John Hughes, right?
Yeah, and we don't have any other crossover, but this is our second John Hughes movie, I believe. So let us begin with 16 Candles from 1984. Universal Pictures, starring Molly Ringwald. I had a big crush on her then. It carries. Sorry, that's my age.
It's inappropriate now.
Well, no, I was 13 when the movie came out, so it was okay to have a crush then. But I'm saying I have a crush on modern Molly Ringwald.
All right. Oh, okay.
Like we grew up together.
Not this one.
Not this one.
Child
no, the other one. And then, of course, the one who Josh has a crush on, Anthony Michael Hall.
Since the first time we met eyes.
Paul Dooley, who is extraordinary in the movie, Geddy Watanabe, and Justin Henry, who, believe it or not, that jerk son was an Oscar nominee for Kramer versus Kramer. So he actually has the best acting resume of anyone in the movie. And of course, it was written and directed by the great John Hughes. Now, I'm glad I bring that up because we open in the first shot on a classic John Hughes Chicagoland neighborhood. Doesn't it look like every John Hughes movie?
It's always Home Alone, Planes, Trains, John Hughes thinks the stereotypical family lives in this brick home. Larger than life brick home.
A $6 million brick home, just a short drive from Chicago, but it is a beautiful house. It is a hectic start to the day. Mom and dad and 3 daughters and an a-hole son are all vying to get ready. It's Friday, the day before Ginny's wedding. And this is something that never occurred. Ginny is one of the sisters, the oldest sister. This never occurred to me in previous viewings. You know, this whole movie takes place basically in a day.
Yes.
Everything happens in 24 hours.
Well, yeah, I think it's less than 24 hours because it's all about her birthday.
Yeah, well, it goes to the next morning, and then in the evening, I mean, there's a tag scene,
Yeah,
but
right.
still,
There is
it's
an
really
overnight, 24
about
hours.
one day, which is crazy. So much stuff is going on. Well, Sam Baker, who is Molly Ringwald, is having her 16th birthday, which I think still is a big deal to people because of driver's license and stuff like that. But I think it was even more important then, and she still feels, as she says, utterly forgettable. She's talking on her phone with her friend and saying that it's oh, I got to go down and deal with all the jive birthday business. But despite dreading it, the entire family forgets Sam's birthday. And that is where we set the whole theme of the movie. And that's a cold open. We go into the credits with a great montage of high school life. Now, I went to high school starting in 1985, a year after this movie. But by the time I saw this movie, I'm sure I was in high school because I was looking at it on video or home box office. And it really brought back a lot of memories. The fashions, the fighting the lock on the locker, just the whole notion of high school.
High school doesn't change. Like there's
I guess you're
technology
right.
that's different and things like styles are different, but it's the same. The reason this movie works is it's the same awkwardness that they dealt with in the 80s that kids today still deal with in high school.
I hope the locks are better on the lockers. That's all I hope. Because
they're
that poor guy. Okay, good.
They're not. I just went through it. They're
Okay,
not.
so the credits roll with this wonderful montage with a great synth-heavy 80s music bed that's sort of recognizable, but not. It sounds like every other movie in the 80s, and in that way, I think it really just lands. And the music in the movie is done by Ira Newborn, who did music for Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, the Naked Gun movies, Uncle Buck, Ferris Bueller, etc. Ira Newborn worked with John Hughes a lot. So Sam gets to school and she's miserable. She's in study hall and takes a confidential sex survey that is conveyed by folding up a piece of loose leaf paper and then passed among students. Were you a note passer in high school? Did that happen?
Yeah, because just like you, we didn't have cell phones. Now kids text from the back of the classroom to the front.
Exactly.
So you had to do this.
So this is a pretty intense sex survey, and Sam is very honest on it. And she reveals that her dream guy is a senior. She's a sophomore, but senior Jake Ryan, who is played by the absolutely dreamy Michael Schaffling. And I believe in true, like, Hallmark movie methodology, he is now like a carpenter or a woodcutter or something like that. He no longer acts. He's become a sexy guy in the flannel shirt from a Hallmark movie. But this is the reason that this movie is my wife Carrie's favorite movie. She still carries a torch for Michael Schaffling. And I have to wonder, the fact that at the time I was crushing on Molly Ringwald and she was crushing on Michael Schaffling, is that why we work together?
No.
No? Okay, just checking.
No,
but you
that
have to
means-
admit, what?
Right. Well, you obviously weren't crushing on him.
No,
And
no.
she wasn't crushing on her, so you had that in common. But I think this is what every, like, teenage, like, high school freshman girl, like, they dream of the varsity.
The senior, yeah.
Senior guy.
And really, I mean, they do a great job of making him look like the absolute out of a laboratory senior in high school in 1983.
Well, that's a little bit of a problem with the movie is that the seniors look like grown adults.
Well, that always happens. Yeah.
I know that's a little bit in high schools where the seniors are always look older.
Right.
But they look like they're 25, 26 with 16-year-olds.
What I like is trying to pretend that everyone in the movie Grease is in high school when they're all like 35 and they
Exactly.
originated the role on Broadway. So it doesn't really play, but we can let that go. She pretends to yawn and drops the note behind her back that's going to go to her friend, but her friend is asleep, and who intercepts the note but Jake? Oh no. Now he knows that he is on her radar. And so he starts to ask about Sam and try to figure out what's up with her. We learn that Jake is dating Carolyn, who is a portrait of perfection as seen in The Shower, which is pretty saucy for a PG rated flick.
Yeah, and that's exactly that scene. And we're supposed to say, oh, we're watching a high school senior.
Yeah, a little
We're watching a
problematic
kid.
with that. Yeah,
That's
a
an
little
issue.
problem. Yeah, it's a rather big issue. And also, I'd say that they use the F word at least once. And there is what I would qualify as not an extended, but a definite frontal nudity scene This would definitely be PG-13 or maybe even R if it were to come out today.
Yeah, but this was pre-PG-13, I imagine.
It was. And I also wonder why they thought it was okay. I don't know. But let's move on. We now see Sam in her least favorite environment, and she's bitter because she feels she has to compete against this gorgeous girl that she's watching in the shower. And by the way, don't watch people in the shower. The whole scene is flawed. It really is not great.
Well, I mean, when you've got a body like that, apparently.
Well, okay.
People stare.
Yeah, but why no shower scene with Michael Schaffling? For the ladies. But we get to see Sam in her favorite environment. I'm sorry, her least favorite environment, the school bus. The dregs of school, including two guys with jock straps on their head and laser guns. Now, my school bus was never that bad, but I can see tendrils of truth in there. The bus was not a fun environment, especially by the time you're 16 or 17. Were you a bus rider?
No, I went to a private school, so I had no bus.
I see. Okay, very good. And so she's nearly the last one on the bus. Sam's all by herself. And by the way, she looks great, has a hat on. A woman in a hat is so vogue, as he says. Then we hear the Dragnet theme. Dun, 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 dun. And she gets hit on by Ted the Geek, Farmer Ted, played by Anthony Michael Hall. And it is quite cringe. Can we have that clip, please, of Ted on the bus? See, I told you it was the Dragnet theme. And this is the first time we see him. It's great.
I like his confidence.
I do too.
How's it going?
How's what going?
You know, things, life, whatnot.
Life is not whatnot, and it's none of your business.
So you going to New Faces dance tonight, or?
That's none of your business.
Are you inhibited about dancing in public? I mean, you don't have to dance. I mean, you can just stand there and me and my dudes and just be you.
Sounds major.
You should not smell people like that.
No, that's really
What's the
cringe.
story? I mean, you got a guy, or?
Yes, 3 big ones, and they less went blood. So quit bugging me, or I'll stick them all over your weenie ass.
You know, I'm getting input here that I'm reading is relatively hostile. I mean, it's just
Go to hell.
very hostile.
You're right. I do love his confidence.
Yes.
And you don't know really what to make of him at that point, except for the fact that they've painted him as a very nerdy looking guy that is overly confident. By the way, did you notice who the girl was with the headgear on, also on the bus with the orthodontic headgear?
I did not know who that was.
That's Joan Cusack, John Cusack's big sister. And both Cusacks actually rear their Cusack heads in the movie. So Sam gets home.
The rest of the bus is empty, though, and he's squeezing on that little chair.
So he can smell her.
Yeah, simply because she responded when he said, "How's it going?"
Now, you know that later on when he's describing her to Jake, he actually says, "Cool chick smells nice." So that's a good throwback to that.
He sniffs her twice in that bus scene. It's
weird. It is weird. So Sam gets home. We hear the Twilight Zone theme, nee, 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 and her grandparents have taken over her room, and they have also forgotten her birthday. So she goes downstairs and then encounters 2 of the better characters in the movie, Grandpa Fred and Grandma Helen, who remarks on her breasts and then feels her up. Another scene that I'm not really happy with.
A little odd.
Yeah.
As a father of daughters, I know for a fact that that's not what you want to do. You don't even want to comment about it, let alone grab.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No grabbing. That's our policy. I love the fact that they've got 2 sets of grands in this movie. The one is a very traditional old person type couple, and the other are, I can only describe as Florida seniors. You know, a little more cool.
They do.
Yeah. And I love that there's good contrast.
Yeah, they are the retirees.
Yeah.
Down in Florida.
You think they flew in from, I think, probably from Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, pickleball wasn't around, or they would
but they would have.
The pickleball parents.
Oh, they would have done it. Now, she is upset because her birthday is forgotten, and her grandmother just copped a feel. So she goes into, I believe it is her brother's bedroom to kind of escape from it all. And this is when we meet Long Duk Dong.
Yeah.
He is an exchange student with the Baker grandparents, the non-Florida grandparents. And because he's staying there for the wedding, she finds out she has to sleep on the sofa, or as the brother says, Sofa City, sweetheart. That's where you're sleeping. Yes. Sofa City.
But we are instantly it's problematic with his name. His name alone before you get into anything about him.
Well, keep in mind, almost before you see him, you hear a gong, a stereotypical Chinese gong. Yes. And he also appears upside down because he's on the top bunk and he comes down. So this is rife with problems that we will discuss in a moment. So she tries to talk to her sister who's getting married, Ginny, but she won't listen to Sam. She tells Sam is being selfish and craving attention.
Jenny's having a bad day.
Well, you know, it's her time of the month, and the wedding is the next day. So that's an ongoing sort of conflict for her. But luckily, at dinner, Dong enjoys his quiche, and we have a clip of Long Duk Dong. I believe you'll hear the gong in this, actually.
Very clever dinner. Appetizing food fit neatly into interesting round pie.
It's a quiche.
How do you spell?
Well, you don't spell it, son. You eat it.
Dong has only been in our country a short time, Fred. I think we could all help him assimilate.
Oh.
Long Duk Dong is about your age, Sam. You two should have a lot to chat about.
I love visiting with the grandma and the grandpa and writing letters to parents and pushing lawn mowing machines so grandpa's hyena don't get disturbed.
Hernia!
Oh, yes, indeedy. He does the dishes and helps with the laundry, you betcha.
What a great, awkward scene that is. And if I could have 1 second of this movie that I had in my hard drive in my head, for years it's been, you don't spell it, son, you eat it.
Oh, and they brought him over basically as a slave.
Exactly.
He's pushing, mow my lawn, do the dishes.
Do my laundry, exactly. So this, very, very awkward, and obviously Sam wants nothing to do with him because she's upset about her birthday. The New Faces dances that night. So she uses the dance to get out of dinner. She says it's a school dance they're being graded on for PE. And just when she's about out of the situation, the grandmother says, why don't you take Dong to the dance with you? And she is absolutely horrified. Now, I know you heard the gong in that one of the running jokes in the movie is, every time you see Dong, you get that stereotypical sound effect, which I guess when I saw this when I was 14, 15 years old, it didn't really ring to me as anything but a joke. But it
was also then just like it wasn't in here except for as a joke, not to be offensive, but just to be a joke.
Yeah, it's the same thing as someone having like a theme song in a movie, but this is, of course, simplified and very, very offensive. So we get to the dance, and the Peter Gunn theme plays, and we get to see all of the geeks. Of course, they're standing against the wall of the gym, not not interacting with anybody but themselves. And we see them, and we see Ted, Farmer Ted, the geek, approach Sam because he has told his crew he will get some, his words, fully aged sophomore meat. Again, this is problematic.
Yes.
Because he bet the friend that if he did not get with her, they would bet floppy disks, which is a very funny reference that I imagine is lost on a lot of people nowadays. But floppy disks is how you did computers in 1984. Were you a part of the floppy disk movement? Okay.
Of course, yes. Yes,
okay.
They were horrible. Because at this time it was probably still the 5 1/4, like big black square.
Yep,
ones
exactly.
that were actually floppy, and if you stuck them in your backpack wrong, it would bend. And
now, did you ever deal with the 10-inch floppy disks?
I don't think I've dealt with the 10-inch.
My father introduced me to computing with the 10-inch floppy disk. So I can realize where we're at in here. So she approaches, Sam is approached by the geek. She storms off, and an embarrassed Ted says if he can't get her underpants, that's how he's going to get his floppy disk. He's betting that he can secure her underpants, which again, she's 16. We'll get into this later.
All right, Rob, I'll help you out. There's no 10-inch floppy disk.
But there were large.
But
there was a large one, right?
That's the 5 1/4.
Oh, I somehow am remembering ones that was much taller.
Yes,
you know
so
what?
We're all talking about the same discs. The plastic black, generally thin piece of paper.
And they were really destructible.
Yes. Those you could just bend or crease. Then you got the 3.5 inches where you would break off the little metal tab at the bottom would break if you stuck it in wrong.
But they had like a little slide thing, right? So they were encased in hard plastic.
Had a slide.
That's what was going on when I was in college. But you know what? This is not about me.
No.
This is about 16 Candles. So also at the dance, while Sam is having the worst time of her life, Dong is having a great time because he found a girl who is quite, how shall I say, athletic.
Yeah,
she's very healthy.
Yes, he found a pillow for his head.
He did. So eventually, after she storms off, Jake approaches the geek and says, "What about Sam?" Jake finds out that she is single, and at that time, Sam has retreated to hide in the auto shop, I think, of the school, where she is finally discovered by Farmer Ted in a car, and they talk and they kind of bond. And Ted tries to kiss her twice. It doesn't go well, but
the confidence.
So great. He's so confident, and because they've bonded, he actually says, "Would you please give me your underpants?" And for some reason, she agrees. So that goes on. Back at the dance, Jake and his gal have a small argument. Right at the moment, Sam tries to approach Jake, but chickens out. Meanwhile, in the men's room, the geeks are selling a look at the panties for $1 a peek. They're actually charging people to look at them.
Yes.
Okay, cut back to, remember, there's a wedding tomorrow. And the family, the parents are having dinner with the in-laws, and they appear to be mobbed up because the restaurant has the Godfather theme playing in the background. And I guess calling someone an oily bohunk is offensive. I wouldn't want it, but I think that is, for this movie, understated. But it is absolutely a slur against Italian Americans, right?
I guess so. I've never heard it before.
I hadn't either. Maybe he thought it would catch on. So they're going to have a legendary party at Jake's house because his parents are out of town. This is another $6 million John Hughes house in Chicagoland. The party is massive. Dong shows up with his girlfriend, and even the nerds show up. And this place, it's a huge house, and it is full. Am I wrong in thinking that there were more people at the party than there were at the dance? It really was a huge party.
Yeah, everyone from the dance came back to this house party.
Okay, very good. And the party was sort of announced by Jake's girlfriend, Carolyn, and so he's not into it. So he sneaks off to his room to sort of low-key, as my son would say, low-key research Samantha. He calls her phone. Go ahead.
I still don't understand, because of the note, suddenly he's into this freshman. Or sophomore, I guess.
I think what it is he says to his friend, "She's always staring at me. It's kind of cool the way she's always staring at me."
Yeah. That's normally comes across as creepy, not cool.
But that really is. That's the depth of the relationship at this point.
Guys don't need much.
Yeah, I guess you're
attention.
Right. So he calls the grandparents a few times, hangs up, because he's calling her phone, and the grandparents are answering. Yes. Great line. What did he want? And the grandmother says, sex. So he finally speaks to the grandparents, and they say, Sam wouldn't be interested in you, and hangs up. And they hang up. Also at the party at this time, because his drunken girlfriend is wanting Jake to come out and party, she passes out at his bedroom door, and her hair gets caught in the door. She's got blonde hair, and it gets caught in the door jamb. There's no way she can escape because Jake's not going to help her. So two of her drunken cronies help her out. We have a clip here. Listen to the sound of the scissors. It has stayed with me all these years.
You promise you won't get mad? No, I love you. Okay, close your eyes. Go.
There's so many better ways out of this.
I know. But they got these massive scissors. They cut a hunk of her hair out the size of a ribeye.
Don't know how to thank you enough. My pleasure.
So that is she, just to show how drunk and out of control she is. She really did lose about a third of her hair to get it out of the door. Still lovely though. Sam's dad finally realizes that they missed the birthday and has a very sweet apology. And she talks to him about Jake, and this is a very sweet line. She says, "It just hurts, Dad." And he says, "That's why they're called crushes. If they didn't hurt, they'd call them something else." And that, I think the father might be overall the sanest person in the entire movie. I mean, beyond even like the organist at the church and all that, he is sensible, and I think he's just a good person. So that's a great scene for him. Yeah. Meanwhile, back at the party, Jake discovers Farmer Ted trapped under a glass table. And it's a great scene because he moves like a handful of pretzels and you just see his eye and he screams. The house is so destroyed to this day. I remember the shot of a record player, a turntable with a frozen pizza on it, spinning with the tone arm on it. It's just, I mean, there's toilet paper and bottles. It's horrible.
You're going to have to change that needle.
You are absolutely going to have to change that needle. But once Farmer Ted and Jake get together, they start talking. Oddly, Farmer Ted makes martinis, weird for a 16-year-old or 15, and he shows Jake that he has the panties and clears up the fact that Jake is indeed her dream guy. And then Jake shows that he's kind of a decent guy because he's respectful to the geek and wants to take care of his girlfriend who is totally passed out. And he says, "You have to get her home." And so he's taking care of her. But when she plops into the father's Rolls Royce, because the geek can't drive a stick shift, they go rolling out with the inebriated Carlin in the dad's Rolls Royce. And when he disposes of her with Ted, he loses all classiness, all credibility. He just sends her off and he says, "I just want to make sure she doesn't end up in a parking lot." And then I've got to thinking that you've got a, 15-year-old guy. He's had a martini and he's driving a Rolls Royce with a drunken 18-year-old girl who is out of control. This is not a good situation. It's a nightmarish Rolls Royce ride. I'm sorry, let me try that again. A nightmarish Rolls Royce ride. And the geek is he's almost a stand-up guy, but he has to come by his friend's house to get a picture of him and the Rolls Royce and Carolyn. And it's a great gag because they take the picture and it turns out just Ted's face. Can't see the Rolls Royce, can't see the girl, no proof. All right, the night's over. It's the wedding day. They find Dong passed out in the front yard, soaked in dog urine. Mom finally apologizes about the birthday mix-up. And she says to the a-hole brother, "Do you want to say anything to Sam? We all forgot her birthday." And he says, "Classic," and just walks off. Off to the wedding. They find Dong in the front yard. They get him put away because he's massively hungover. Farmer Ted wakes up with Carolyn in the Rolls in a parking lot, which is what Jake didn't want. And they're right across the street from the church where the wedding is going to happen.
Yeah, small town. Everything overlaps.
Exactly. Now, here is another problematic issue to be discussed. It is revealed that Ted did have sex with the passed out cheerleader, and she says she enjoyed it, so she's okay with it. So good news, Josh. It wasn't sexual assault.
Right.
And we just took it. Yeah, we just took it as okay. Meanwhile, Ginny, in full bridal mode, has taken a hefty dose of muscle relaxers, and that's some good shtick in the church with her just out of her mind high. Jake swings by the house, sees Dong. Dong reveals that Sam is at the church. The wedding is a disaster. And we find out, could it be that Ted the Geek and Carolyn, are they in love? Because she's not mad at him. She likes him.
They act as those two are now together.
Yeah. Okay. So there's that. And she breaks up with Jake. After the wedding, everyone leaves the church and forgets to take Sam with them. And she's bummed out about that. But when she leaves the church, who's waiting for her there in his red Porsche but Jake? And she smiles and they talk. She blows off the reception and ends up with Jake and a birthday cake. And it has 16 candles on it. And they kiss. The end. Is that place where they had their birthday cake, is that the same house that had the party? Because he had to do a lot of cleaning to make it acceptable to do that.
I thought that was her bedroom.
Oh, it could be. It could be. That makes it a little creepier somehow for me. Anywho, that's the movie. We've got plenty to discuss. So we're going to take a small break and come back and discuss the problems, which are multifold, in 16 Candles, a movie that I watched dozens of times without it really clicking in that it had trouble. This is Hix Nix Stix Pix, and we are talking 16 Candles. Back on Hix Nix Stix Pix. So how old were you when this movie came out, 16 Candles?
When did this come out? 84, so I was 4 years old. So I missed this one. I love John Hughes movies, but this one I missed. I've seen, like, when you see John Hughes, like, rundowns and highlights of his movies, you see clips of 16 Candles.
Sure.
But I've never sat down and watched it end to end.
Well, it is my wife's favorite movie, so it's been sort of a part of our relationship. We bought it on DVD, then we bought it on Blu-ray. It's one of those movies. And I don't think I saw it in the theater, but it was a heavy runner on like WTBS on cable, so you could see it a lot. And it was the kind of movie I remember in high school. They'd say, well, it's a snow day. You want to come hang out at my house? Okay. And there's like 10 of us there. And they turn on the TV, and at 2:05, TBS shows this movie, and we all watch it, and it's great. It is pretty much within a couple months landing right where I started high school. So I can relate to a lot of it. But there's a lot of themes and cultural impact that, if you think about it, they exist. For one thing, the plot of this movie, if you change just minuscule parts of it, this movie could have been made in the 1930s. It is just such a classic guy thinks the girl doesn't want him story. There's nothing groundbreaking in the construction of the story, but it still became one of the defining teen movies of the 80s. Yeah.
Yeah, the story is just a classic, like, teen movie. Like, so many teen romance movies are this exact same story, whether it's, was it 10 Things About You or something like that?
10 Things I Hate About You, yeah.
That thing, very similar, where you put that basic of guy, girl, high school, you can put in so many other stories.
And also, I mean, because she is a sophomore and he is a senior, it almost gets to be like a class thing. Like, not class like they're in the senior class or the sophomore, but like rich versus poor or sectors. Yeah. So there's nothing groundbreaking as far as the plot.
No, and high school's also weird because there's such a difference between the senior and the freshman sophomores. Like, you grew up so much in high school. An amazing
4 years. It really is. And I wonder why this movie, after, 42 years, why does it sort of hold the saber of being the high school movie? It explores insecurity and social hierarchy, as we talked about. But there is a lot of insecurity in the movie, and I think a lot of high schoolers relate to that, even to this day. There's the longing to be noticed. And even in his very, very confident way, the geek just wants to be noticed. That's all he wants.
Yeah, I think the confidence is so over the top that it's almost like what a 15-year-old guy wants to say, but doesn't. Like what he says in his head when he's all confident. That's how I see this guy.
He is, I think it's a kind of a clever setting for him because he's a nerd, but he's king of the nerds. He's like their leader. So that gives him some confidence, I guess.
And it's
then
also part of that John Hughes narrative where all his movies are like high school movies, but he treats them as like they're dealing with adult issues.
Exactly. The geek in this movie, he's the ducky of this movie, if you've ever seen Pretty in Pink. Sort of the outlier character. And then you've got, of course, romantic fantasy versus reality, because even when things work, it's really not all that romantic for everybody. The movie did launch the career of the Brat Pack and sort of that notion of that sector of actors, including Molly Ringwald and Anthony Michael Hall. Now, this comes from the IMDb page. It says, I didn't write this, but I want to quote it. Despite the popularity, the film has been re-examined in recent years for problematic elements involving consent and cultural stereotypes.
Yes,
end quote.
Agreed.
I don't know how for 30 years it didn't occur to me all the things that are wrong with this movie. What landed for you as the most problematic?
Well, I mean, Long Duck. I mean, he's not on screen without a problematic scene.
You're right.
Everything they use for him for humor is wrong.
Yeah. It is no different with him than the way you would paint an Asian in a 1930s pre-code movie. They've got the gong, they've got the broken English, they've got the fact that he's on these shores because of the arrogance of the white man. He's a slave to the grandpa. And he's not even sympathetic. He's a cartoon character. There's nothing about him that's real.
He is not needed in this story at all. He's
You're right.
brought in this extra humor, and it's humor at him. And
the only thing he plot oriented he adds is telling Jake that she's at the church. That's the only time he becomes contingent to the whole thing.
Which the brother could have done. The brother could have been at the house and said.
He could have figured it out. I mean, it's a small town. All right.
And then it's small, but the grandparents groping.
Yeah,
I think
that's not great. That's not okay.
There's lots of things wrong with it, but that was the other one that stood out as like, who even thought this was a good idea in the show?
Yeah,
like,
I understand.
Has that ever happened?
Yeah, her horror in it, but it should not have ever happened. Now let's talk about, as they say, consent. Jake, who is supposed to be the hero, I guess, he at one point says, I don't want her for a piece of ass. I could have any piece of ass. And I've got Carolyn in the next room passed out, and I could have my way with her 7 different ways or something like that.
Yes, the movie portrays girls as prizes.
Yeah.
And awards the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, even Sam, who is our protagonist, sees Carolyn as a prize. When she's looking at her shower, she's jealous because she doesn't have anything to do with her personality or anything like that. Then there is, I hate to use the word, so I won't, but there is definite a sexual assault. And believe me, that's me softening the word. There's sexual assault between the geek and Carolyn.
Oh, yeah. I don't buy the as she was passed out and coming in and out of consciousness, she gave approval. So it's all good.
Yeah, it's really, I guess maybe in high school, it would be seemingly more acceptable because these are situations that you might dream of or fantasize about, like being with the hot cheerleader, or if the quarterback finally seeks you out and comes to your sister's wedding. But it's really dark. There's a dark side to this movie.
It's an awkward way to start your relationship.
It is. It is. So those are some things I don't like about it. Do you have anything else that bothered you about it?
No, just all that stuff at the party. The party was just so amplified for like
over the top
teenagers and over the top that it's like, I sometimes wonder if movies like this and the party culture in movies then influences like high school kids, if that's what they think. If we don't act this way, we're not having a great party.
Yeah, it does. It sort of sets the bar for what a great party is. And I hate also, I mean, I talked about the record player already. I don't want to really be an audio nerd, but the cassette that has the tape spitting out of the cassette player.
Right.
That makes my back hurt. I
They can
hate
destroy
that.
the Rolls Royce. That doesn't bother you.
Well, you can fix a Rolls Royce, but I mean, have you ever tried with a pencil to fix that cassette? That's really tough. The movie is, one thing I love, the gag when Jake is first talking to his friend about the situation and they look like they're doing pull-ups and then they pull back and it's a bar that's only like 4 feet tall and they're just squatting and going up and squatting and doing fake pull-ups. I like that. But also, don't you feel that the movie, if the target is a high schooler, let's say 16, 17 years old, this is an over-sexualized movie.
It is. It is totally over. Yes.
I mean, because I know what everyone was after in high school, but it wasn't going around like, maybe because I don't live in a moneyed John Hughes neighborhood, stuff wasn't going on like this.
They definitely had, you know what? John Hughes movies in general never are what really happens in a high school. They're always a teenage fantasy of what high school could be like. And it doesn't matter, like, you think of Ferris Bueller. You wouldn't get away with that. You think of the Breakfast Club.
Right.
Not going to work in real life.
Most of the John Hughes movies, if the protagonist woke up at the end of the movie and it was all a dream, it would work because the stuff is outlandish. I like to use the word outlandish. Also, we are a different society now because they're throwing around the F word, not the F word for gay people, and the short and long versions of it.
Yes,
like it doesn't even matter.
Changes.
Yeah. They also use the R word, which again, that I cringe when I hear that. And those weren't even thrown in as jokes or punchlines. That was just the way the people were talking. That's a pretty huge change. Now, I have a question for you because you are younger than me. There are several gags that, like we saw when Ted comes up to her on the bus, they play the theme to Dragnet. Peter Gunn is played at the dance. The Twilight Zone is played when she sees the parents. Do you think these TV theme gags still land? Do people know what they are? Okay.
No, here's what you don't know what it is, but you know the feeling that song gets you.
Okay. All right.
You've seen enough to know the Dragnet theme is like, oh, something's coming.
Yeah.
You know what it is.
They've almost become tropes, but I imagine it would be funnier to me than it would to, say, my son, because he doesn't know of Twilight Zone or Peter Gunn or Dragnet. So,
Yes,
but that's a
I don't
good
think
use.
you need to know. I think,
All right.
unfortunately, it's very similar to the gong.
Yeah.
That when you hear that, it sets the scene. You know naturally what they're doing.
While we're talking music, the soundtrack is great, and it doesn't get in the way, and it, to me, really does suggest that era. At the dance, they play Spandau Ballet and Madness, and that's the way the charts were then. I really appreciate the accuracy of the way they made the music feel in the film. And I know there have been releases on video where they've replaced the music because of copyrights. There are editions out there that have the original music, and I recommend them greatly. It's a great soundtrack. Now, for someone who didn't live through the era, how did you like the music in it?
No, music was great. I like 80s music. So,
and
it
it's
all
great.
landed, and it all didn't distract, but it added to the scene.
Yeah. And I like the fact that in Sam's bedroom, you can spot two posters. One is the Stray Cats, and one is the Culture Club. And they couldn't be any further removed from each other as far as musical style goes. But I also have to wonder if it's because the theme of 16 Candles was performed by the Stray Cats. So that might have been like sort of a tie-in. Yeah. What else about the movie delighted you? Was there anything that, because you know, it is your wife's one of your wife's favorite movies too.
It is. And I watched it by myself. Maybe if I watched it with her, maybe there'd be things I like better. My favorite scene was the negotiation in the car for her underwear.
Yes, it is great.
Because I thought it brought in all of his confidence. It brought in all the awkwardness, but it also brought in this like emotion, like they're these two losers bonding.
Yeah,
over this,
and it is
over stereotypes.
A beautiful teenage fantasy set piece that you would meet someone alone in the audio shop in the school in a Porsche, and you just have that conversation. I think upon watching it again, my favorite thing about the movie is Ted, the geek. I think he's a great character. He might be, although he's not the hero or even an honorable character, he might be the best character in the movie because he is so self-aware, but he puts himself past it. There's one great scene when he's waiting for his friends to come out to take his picture in the Rolls Royce, and you hear just an amazing crash behind him because they've screwed up, and he stops and he sighs because he realizes he's just surrounded by losers without embracing the fact that he's a loser himself.
Right. Well, this is where you talk about the John Hughes, and it's a dream sequence. Character could wake up at any point. And this story, as much as it revolves around Samantha and wanting the senior, it's really led by the geek. And it's his he's the dreamer, it's his story.
And he really is the glue that holds everything together. All the plot lines sort of filter through him, even to being at the wedding, because that's where he ditched the Rolls Royce. He was there. He's also really I didn't notice this before. I think Anthony Michael Hall is really adept at physical comedy. And they don't lean on it in this movie, but there's a couple things when he knocks over. By the way, I don't believe anyone ever stacks hubcaps, but when he knocks over the stack of hubcaps in the auto shop, that could be like a 2-second gag, but it's stretched out to like 20 seconds because he's so great at the stuff continuing to fall. His bad dancing at the dance is great. And even the way he approaches Sam on the bus, he's got a windbreaker tied around his waist, and just the way he uses the loose sleeves to sort of, gesture, he's really fun to watch.
And just the way he slides from behind her into her seat and has the arm around her. He's definitely, he's a character.
I love his character. He was originally, he and Molly Ringwald did not get along, which was making it tough on the film set. So John Hughes took them to a record store and just left them there. And they found out they had a lot of musicality in common, and that began their friendship, which I think is great. And I think that also comes through. I think they seem like a genuine, not a couple, but certainly they could be friends. I like it.
Sure.
Any other things about the movie that you want to say, good, bad, or indifferent?
I just don't understand. There's so much random stuff in this movie where it's like, I don't understand the whole point of the story has to happen around the sister's wedding, except for it being a distraction. And then why does that wedding have to be like this nightmare? Like for her to be having a bad day and then on the muscle relaxer, it doesn't add to the story at all.
No, the wedding could be its own John Hughes movie, and would probably be a great John Hughes movie. The whole fact of a girl that is getting married and causing her family utter hell. But it doesn't, you're right. It doesn't need the forgotten birthday. That's the crux of it.
What it did was bring the grandparents into town and bring Long Duk into town.
Yeah.
That's all it did story-wise.
And I can do without the older grandparents, but I do like Grandpa Fred. I wish he was in I'd like him in every movie. You don't spell it, son. You eat it. So I relived a little bit of my teen years by watching this. You like the 80s, and you learned about how times have changed in the past 40 years. Out of 10, 10 being the best, how many destroyed red Rolls Royces do you give this movie?
Oh, I'm going to give this a 5.
It's
kind of low because if I grew up with this, there's other John Hughes movies that we'll get to at some point that I adored as a child, and now I am cringy looking to go back at.
But we talked about Planes, Trains, Automobiles at Christmas time, and that movie has aged wonderfully, almost better than when it came out.
Yes,
so this movie is so rife with stuff that did not age well.
Here's the movie that I loved as a teenager that I just, now after watching 16 Candles, I'm like, there's no way that movie holds up.
No.
Is Weird Science.
Weird Science is a tough watch.
There's no way, because that is even more sexualized.
Yes, and there's stereotypes in there too with the jazz musicians. It's just, it's a different time. And I don't slight John Hughes as a filmmaker because he's left a wonderful legacy, but this is not the one to hang your hat on, John.
No, the stories are great. But but they are definitely set in their times.
Do you feel that this movie could be remade in a more with more awareness to the social scheme of today, and could it hold up?
Yeah, it could. And my guess is that if you look at some of the, I believe it was like the late 90s, we had this other push of teen romance dramas and comedies. And I bet that if you compare that, a lot of influences are from this movie.
Yeah, well, all those movies had one thing in common. They all had Freddie Prinze Jr. So as long as you had Freddie Prinze Jr. in a movie, it's okay. I would love to, and if we get some action on our Facebook page, who would you cast in the roles if you were to make this movie now? I'd love to know what you think, because it's delicate casting. If you've got the romantic lead at 16 years old, you have to be really careful with how you handle it.
No, and see, that's where you tell me just casting it, I feel creepy.
Yeah.
Just trying to say.
I guess you're right. Well, I'm sure there's creeps out there that have thought about it. So please.
But I wouldn't mind a sequel of this, of like 40 Candles.
Oh.
And check in where she is now.
That'd be, and you know what? And with my past with Molly, I'd love that too. Let's get that movie made. So you gave it 5 Rolls Royces?
I'll give it 5.
Going into it and knowing that we were going to do it, in my head, I was thinking it was going to be about an 8 because I hadn't seen it in a few years. After watching it, I have to give it a 6, because any comedy that leaves you with so many problematic issues,
there's so many
that's not
issues.
A comedy. That's not a comedy. It worries you.
It's really easy to take a movie like Blazing Saddles, and that is a movie that's hard to find now. It's hard to watch because it's been said, oh, there's so many problems, put it away.
Right.
But this movie probably has just as many problems.
I'd
in
say
a different way, if
in
not
a
more.
in a more serious way. And keep in mind, the people that are out to slash Blazing Saddles from the word go, I understand you're uncomfortable with a certain word, but you have to know that movie was written as one of the strongest. It was really a statement, a really strong statement about racial equality.
Right.
Because he's the hero. The sheriff is the hero. You got to know this. And it's not like Mel Brooks was trying to champion white supremacy. As a matter of fact, as a lifelong Jew, he dealt with the hatred as well. And he sort of drew a parallel between that. So, yeah, there's so many things you got to watch out for. But as far as racial stereotypes and sexualizing of teens and sexual assault, I'll say it again, this movie's problematic enough that it knocks me down 2 notches. So.
And problematic that this movie probably had a lot of effect on teenagers.
Yes.
And how they perceive girls and parties and alcohol and assault.
And you know, ideally the character of Sam should be a strong female character. And she could have been painted as one, but she's not. She spends the entire movie feeling sorry for herself and pursuing someone that really isn't for her.
And you know what? You could have easily made the geek the hero by making him run into problems every time he tried to assault this girl instead of he is the hero and now has a new girlfriend because of it.
Yeah. He's like, as I've heard said, if he falls into a mud puddle, he comes up with a gold watch. Right. Everything works out for him. So a rating of 5 and a rating of 6. I hope you all watched the movie before we did this show, or at least are familiar with it. And let us know what you think, because again, problematic. Now, next week, I mentioned at the top of the show that my father passed away. And one of the coolest things that happened is when I was staying at his condo in Florida, I went into his DVR and there was a stack of movies, maybe 30 movies, all pretty great movies. But these were films that he selected that he wanted to watch. Unfortunately, death got in the way. So while we were waiting it out and staying with him and trying to make his last days comfortable, I started watching movies that my dad loved. And I don't know if it's just me being a weirdo. It brought me great comfort. It was kind of like being in a room with my pop watching a movie. So next week, we are going to watch what's in this envelope. Because I'm out of town, Josh, this is not a legal size envelope.
That is a smaller envelope.
A letter-size envelope.
Hopefully that means a shorter movie.
Well, we'll see, because next week we're going to do what is my dad's favorite movie of them all. And it's, hold on. And remember, folks, Josh doesn't know what the movie is until I open the envelope.
But your dad was great, and I'm excited if this is his favorite movie.
A wonderful film coming in at 1 hour and 42 minutes. It is black and white, and it is the great movie Casablanca, 1942 from Warner Brothers, often called, this sort of goes hand in hand with Citizen Kane, but often called the greatest American movie ever made.
I like this because this is why I like this show, because this is a movie that I have known about my entire life, but I have never had a desire to watch it.
You would never watch it.
No, I would never watch it.
It is great. If you have not seen it, watch it before our next episode. If you have seen it, watch it again. It is one of those movies that really has almost not even a frame of film out of place. And it is a 1942 film from Warner Brothers with Humphrey Bogart, Ingrid Bergman, Paul Henreid, Peter Lorre, Claude Rains, and the second time we get to have Sidney Greenstreet discussed on this show because he played the fat man in the Maltese Falcon. So 2 John Hughes movies and 2 Sidney Greenstreet films. And to do that for my pop. Folks, I'm so glad to be back and glad to do this. And also very appreciative of Josh for being patient to let me work through all my issues. What do they do?
It won't take us 6 weeks to watch Casablanca.
No, it's very short. And it is not just black and white. It's extremely black and white. And once again, how do the people show their love to the show, Josh?
Subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Follow us over on YouTube. If we get enough followers over on YouTube, maybe we will do one of these live.
I'd love to do a live one of a short color movie from the last 10 years. Josh, thank you for playing along. Listeners, thank you for playing along. For Hix Nix Stix Pix, I am Rob Spiewak.
I'm Josh Soroka.
And we will see you next time. Save us the aisle seats.
Hix Nix Stix Pix, a podcast about Rob's movies with Rob Spiewak and Josh Soroka.
Mike O'Mara, Radio Entertainment.